Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. Today is Tuesday and we are here to discuss the Western Conference Finals, game number 1, featuring the Lakers at the... Did we just lose connection, guys? Come on. Okay, there we go. We're back. My computer's doing some funky things with me. All right. We are here for game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. And boy, am I excited about this matchup. This is going to be like one for the ages here. It is really, really, you got arguably the best offensive player in the game, at least the way he's playing right now, versus one of the best defensive players in the game going mano-a-mano. You have, the legend himself, the king, looking for one ring, and then you've got, the guy who I think is the key to it all, and who has been missing for Denver the past few years, and that being Jamal Murray, because I think he's what makes that team tick. And we haven't seen him in the playoffs the last couple of years as Denver's exited early. But things are different this year, and it's going to be a doozy of a matchup. So I'm super excited, happy to be here, happy to have you guys join me on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. I apologize for being late. The day just kind of got away from me, and all of a sudden I looked up and it was like 1:06, which is my time as I'm out west. But thank you for hanging in there, and happy to see folks joining. I don't know where Stacks is today. He's broken his streak. Stacks has shown up every day that I've broadcast for the past several months, and showing up at least an hour early. But this Absolute Power is top of the list. So thank you for joining Absolute Power. Stacks, I hope you're okay. I hope you're going to catch this on rebroadcast. But this is going to be a good one. And Bev, I love it when you join. Thank you, Female Power. We are together. And it wouldn't be the same without my man boy from Cali, who's back in the business right now because he was absent. What were you on vacation, right? So not playing the DFS, back in it now. So hopefully there's some big winnings tonight. Anyway, kind of interesting today with, just a showdown slate. Single game makes things a little different. Certainly it's more about that combination of players that you can get in, optimizing and game scripting a lot more, because you're going to have to use somebody who probably is a little bit shaky and you're uncertain with, instead of playing it safe and just going with the big names. You can't fit them all in, that's for sure. And we've essentially got 4 of them here. We've got, we basically have, 4 guys who can give you 50 plus points, and certainly with the Joker and with Anthony Davis, we're hoping for even more than 50. It's a matter of who you like of that group. You can't play all of them, no way, unless you want to, play all 4 and then stick yourself with Beasley and, Thomas Bryant or something like that. Guys who are going to get like 4 to 5 minutes in this game and produce pretty much nothing burgers. At most, you can go with one of those guys. I certainly don't recommend more than one in any of your lineups. So, we're going to strategize around those single games a little bit. I have taken a look at them ahead of time. Also, a lot harder to pick GPP versus single entry in these cases because, again, it's you have those 4 guys. You can play 3 of them, and it really comes down to who's the odd man out. So let's get into it. 8:30 p.m. Eastern time is our start. It is in Denver, and we know that Denver's got a great home arena advantage, probably one of the best that there is, dealing with that thin air. And you've got, LeBron James, who's bucking the trend with Father Time. So, does that mean that he gets a little winded? Doesn't quite hit it down the stretch? Does that mean that he's got to be, replaced for a few minutes? Can't quite play, 40 plus minutes? All those things matter. right now, I don't know if you guys have the line because my line is not showing. I don't have an updated line for this game. So any of you in the chat, if you've got something, put it out there. Let me know. But we've got, LeBron and Anthony Davis are listed as probable. I don't think you'll ever see them without a GTT tag. Certainly not in this era. So, but they will be playing for sure. Jamal Murray, same thing, kind of listed as questionable, but he was questionable last game of the Phoenix series. He was ill. He ended up ill that morning, played like 40 minutes and played amazingly. I don't expect that he is going to be sitting at all. So full speed ahead. Everybody's going. Mo Bamba is out, but, I don't think even if Mo Bamba was in, he'd have much of an impact. So Absolute Power is helping me out. Thank you very much. 225.5 with Denver favored by 6. Fully support that. I think, I don't think this one's going to be that close. I think LA will hang in there, but I think Denver, with that home court advantage, really well rested at this point, just too good. Oh, and Absolute Power has given us a correction. He's saying 222.5. So I don't know. I like that 225.5 a little bit better. I think this is an offensive game. As good as, AD is at defense, there's just a lot of offensive weapons on both sides. Denver's sort of middle of the pack defense. I think, just overall, I think it's going to be more of an offensively minded game. So with that, let's kind of go through everybody. And I think I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach and just kind of run everyone down and tell you how much I like them in this game, what I think they're going to do, et cetera. So we'll start with the Denver side. And, I think that we're in game one, so I think there's going to be a little bit of leeway, and some of the bench guys are going to play a few more minutes than they will down the stretch. But you're certainly still going to get the lion's share from your starting 5. Joker is the absolute man. Now, I think one thing that's interesting is he played lights out against Phoenix, but it was the perfect setup for him. I mean, Ayton was no match, and there was no backup center to speak of. I think the Lakers are going to be a little different, and it's shown itself. I mean, the challenge, I went back 3 years to take a look at these matchups, and the challenge is that just about every single one of those games, in fact, all of them, had either Jamal Murray, Anthony Davis, or LeBron James out. And what that means is we haven't really got a full sense of full defense, full offense, et cetera. But what I can say is, the Joker doesn't go crazy with Anthony Davis defense. That's what we've seen so far. And so I expect that to be the same. Something you want to think about as he's the highest, player on the slate is, if he's going to get a 70, awesome. If he's going to get a 50, you don't want him at the top of your lineup. It's just not, the value's not going to be there. So certainly something to think of. I'm taking a look from a GPP standpoint of maybe not having him in the captain position or not having him. It's tough to not have him in the lineup at all, particularly on FanDuel where there's no change in pricing. But on DK, I am looking at one lineup that does not have him at all. It's got to be contrarian to win big. Otherwise, the Joker's the man. I mean, he is like, I think, honestly, he's the real MVP. Can't believe, Embiid totally imploded. And, the warts are showing. And in my mind, he, Joker should have been the MVP. He's certainly, in my mind, the best center in the league. Got to have Joker for the most part, unless you want to go totally contrarian. Jamal Murray, another guy. I think he has a great series here against LA. LA does not have the best backcourt defense. I think Murray is clutch. He's going to be taking some big shots. The balls, he makes things go on this team. The ball's going to be in his hands. I absolutely love him. I actually think he's going to, he could outscore the Joker in this series. Now, on the flip side, I think the Joker is going to be a triple-double threat every single night. He is, he's going to have more assists than he did against Phoenix. Phoenix double-teamed him, and as a result, I think, I think he got more shots off, let's put it that way, against Phoenix than I think he's going to against LA, and I think he's going to be passing out of those defensive arrangements more frequently, and his assists are going to go up a bit. So I love both of these guys at the top. And the question really comes down to, of Pope, Gordon, Porter, and Bruce Brown, who are going to get the lion's share of the rest of the minutes, who works from a pricing standpoint, who's going to stand out. I think you've got some interesting aspects. I think Michael Porter has the most upside. He also has the most downside. So, something to think about. I think he's got the potential to smash value and get you 36 to 40 fantasy points. I think he'll play a few more minutes in this matchup than he will, than he did in Phoenix. And when he can get hot and hit those threes, he's awesome. But he also can sort of fade into the limelight because he's so shot dependent. So, let's see if he gets off to a hot start. He's definitely someone that I'm looking at tonight. The opposite of him is Aaron Gordon, similarly priced, and he's much more about defensive stats than offense. He's not going to be your playmaker. He's not going to be getting a lot of shots off necessarily. He's probably a little bit more stable from a pricing standpoint, or from a scoring, a total fantasy score standpoint. I just, he's a little bit overpriced for me versus where I think he's going to be on both sites, DK and FanDuel. And so, more of a cash game play, but maybe not a ton of upside versus his pricing. Pope, he was with the Lakers for a few years, so back to the, back to playing, in LA. Not tonight though, but playing against his old team. And, he surprised me. He showed a lot of offensive game in a couple of games against Phoenix. But I tend to think he's, again, more defensive purposes. I favor Bruce Brown over Caldwell Pope. I think Brown has more offensive upside. I think he's going to be facing a weaker defense coming off the bench with some more opportunities. So I like Bruce Brown in this series a little bit more than I do Caldwell Pope. As far as the rest of the bench goes, I don't see anyone playing except Jeff Green and Brown. Brown really showed some good stuff. I've been surprised. I've been impressed with him. He defended Durant really well last series, so I think he can. I think he can certainly be out there. Do I see him putting up 20 minutes plus? No. They're going to be in the teens, and so you definitely want to think about that. But pricing wise, particularly on DK, you can fit him into a lineup, and that enables you to really get some of those higher priced guys in there. Jeff Green's another guy. I think they're going to need him for some of his defense, some of his size, and he's a veteran. So I think, again, not a ton of upside, but if he plays 15 minutes and gives you like 14 fantasy points instead of 6, that's a win. And again, somebody that you can fit in. And I'll talk about, there's not many players, who I trust, sort of that are down at that, 2-3K level. So on the Nuggets, it's only Green and Brown. I would not go to any of the other guys like Zeke Naji or Vlatko has totally been out of the rotation. Peyton Watson, great young player, but I don't think they test him out here. And Thomas Bryant, that's the only other wild card. He has not been playing at all. Didn't play at all last series, and it's a shame. He's a decent player, but I'd like to see one game go before popping him in. Let's go over to the chat and see what's going on before we get over to the other side of things. We've got Bev who says, "Who's your fade stud on DK?" Right now it's LeBron. He's kind of odd man out. The thing about the way things are priced on DK, I'm going to pull it up right now. But the DK pricing is kind of interesting because, Murray is pretty inexpensive relative to the other studs. And, oh, come on, there we go. So that's, I think that's kind of interesting. I mean, you got, Murray's at 9,200 and LeBron is at 11.2. I just don't get LeBron's pricing versus Davis. I think Davis has a lot more upside. You got 11.6 versus 11.2. So I definitely favor Davis and Murray both over LeBron at that pricing. So You know, I'm guessing I'm not alone with that. LeBron is probably going to be the lowest owned of all of the studs. So from a GPP standpoint, if you think the old man still got it and can weather, you know, I'd rather go to him maybe when they're in LA in front of the home crowd than in Denver and with that thin air. So that's kind of how I'm playing things today. Let's see, heading over to the other side of things. Joe K's joining us. Hey man, how's it going? Good to have you. Thank you very much for being here. All right, so over on LA, it's kind of interesting because I think this series totally resides with Anthony Davis. If Anthony Davis can, you know, outscore the Joker from a fantasy standpoint, I think LA has a chance. I don't think that's likely, but I think that sort of it really neutralizes things if he can do that. I think, however, you know, Joker's just going to figure out. Joker can win against anyone, and I think he's just going to figure that out. So I do think it's going to be a ton of minutes in this series for Anthony Davis. They really don't have anyone else who can match up against the Joker. I think it's a ton of minutes for all the top guys, and I think, you know, like I said, I prefer Anthony Davis over LeBron on a points per minute basis, and the pricing is kind of showing that. So he's the guy that, for the most part, I'm going with in terms of the studs on the Lakers. I think there's some interesting kind of second-tier players here. You've got a combination of Austin Reeves, who's going to get a lot of minutes. He's really got the team's confidence. He's been playing great. You've got D'Angelo Russell, not my favorite player, but can light it up at any time. You have Schroeder, who moved into the starting lineup at the end of the last series, and that was really working. I think they continue with that, keeping Vanderbilt on the bench. Then you've got Lonnie Walker, who had a couple of incredible games, who, you know, jury's out on how much he'll play this series and how much of an impact he'll have. But, you know, down to Rui, you know, do they need Rui in this series? You know, you got Rui, you have Vanderbilt. You're playing LeBron a lot at the 4. So, you know, unclear right now how much Rui is going to be used. I certainly, you know, when you compare Rui versus Vanderbilt, I mean, one's more for defense, one's more for offense. I'd like to see what they're going to do with Vanderbilt in this series. He really did not play at all at the end of last series. They really faded him out, which was kind of interesting. Now, of course, Phoenix didn't have the size. I think there's more size on the Denver side, and so I tend to think that Vanderbilt may play more than Rui, and he's actually lower priced. So I am favoring him. He's definitely someone that I'm looking at for these showcase lineups because you can get him in, and there's a chance that he does play 20 minutes and can give you, you know, 15 fantasy points. You start getting way down there when you have Malik Beasley and Gabriel and Troy Brown. These guys are not getting a lot of minutes. On DraftKings, they're like bare minimum. They're like $1,000. So possibly you need one of them in your lineup. And, you know, Troy Brown could get 8 to 10 points, in which case it's not a 0, and it kind of helps you get those big guys in. So, definitely, you know, I think they're all worth consideration. Again, particularly when you get down to, hey, I need that one last guy, and I've only got $1,000 left. Makes a big difference if you're trading out and you're saying, okay, well, I either want to get, you know, like a Murray and a Troy Brown for 10K, or do I want a, you know, a Brown and a KCP for 10K? Well, if you think that Brown and KCP are going to give you, let's say, 50 fantasy points, and Murray and Brown are going to give you, you know, Murray's going to give you 45, you know, can Brown get you more than 5? That's going to be the trade-off. And, you know, we'll have to see. Again, it is game 1, so I think they'll go a little bit deeper. I don't think that they're not going to play LeBron, you know, 42 minutes in game 1. He's got to keep some gas in the tank. So I think you are going to get a little bit of Troy Brown. I'd say Troy Brown over Beasley, again, defense over offense. So I like Vanderbilt. I like Brown a little better than I do Rui and Beasley. All right. So, and I didn't mention, so Reeves, Russell, and Schroeder, right? So, you know, I really like Austin Reeves. He's just super hard to get to with his price point. So again, maybe from a GPP standpoint, because I think he's going to be really low owned relative to everyone else out there. Not a huge fan of Russell. I don't trust him. So I'm not going there. Schroeder is really well priced. And Schroeder, I respect Schroeder. I like his game. I think he can really get in there. Now he will, depends on kind of defensively who he's getting. If he's playing more the point guard and Russell more the two and he's getting Murray defense, I like that a little better than Caldwell Pope. So we'll have to see how that goes. But I definitely lean Schroeder over Russell, and he's a heck of a lot cheaper. So, all right. What else? Let's see. I think that covers it from my end. Let's see what folks are saying. Rodney Pollard thinks AD plays too soft at times. I couldn't agree more. I actually think he's the most talented player in the game, but he just doesn't bring it every night. I think he's too afraid of getting hurt. He does play soft, So defensively though, I mean, I remember watching him when he first came into the league, right? And he could just do it all. I mean, without like anybody coming close, right? I mean, whether it was blocks, hitting threes, hitting turnaround jumpers, I mean, in the paint, whole deal. I mean, he has a full game, but we'll see. He's going to need to play tough to play against the Joker, who plays a little dirty. King of Trades has joined us. Thank you for the Tuesday NBA Slate vibes. We are having fun here, and I think we're going to win some money tonight, guys. What do you think? King of Trades, I know, is a Nuggets fan. Yeah, and I feel you. I actually put money on the Nuggets to win the whole enchilada at the beginning of the season. So you guys let me know, do I keep rolling with it? I could cash out now, make about 5 times my money, or 20 times my money if I roll with it. So I'm taking it game by game at this point, but I see the Nuggets going all the way. So Boy from Cali thinks the Lakers steal game 1. They did that in the last 2 series. I don't see that happening again. Difference being, first of all, Denver's better, and secondly, just being in Denver and that advantage there. I don't think it happens. So side bet with you, Boy from Cali. Anyway, that is it for me. So unless anyone has any other comments in the chat, I'll wait a minute, see if they pop on in. But otherwise, I'll put the lineups in Discord about 30 minutes before lock. You guys can take a peek at those, and then I look forward to seeing some winners tonight. All right, so everyone, take care, have a great one, and we will see you tomorrow as we look to crush it in NBA DFS Coach Talk.